There are moments in life when the greatest battles are not the ones you can see, but the ones that move silently around you, hidden in intentions, in glances, in words never spoken aloud. And there is an ancient truth preserved within the sacred traditions of Israel. Not all protection is visible, but the most powerful protection is the one that makes you unseen by what seeks to harm you. The powerful Hebrew prayer that makes you invisible to evil and blocks envy is not merely a sequence of words. It is a spiritual alignment, a shield woven from divine wisdom that has been carried through generations. Before we go deeper into this hidden knowledge, take a moment to support this message. Subscribe now to the channel Jewish Wisdom, because every time you do, you help keep these ancient teachings alive and accessible to those who are searching for truth in a noisy world. And I want you to participate in this moment. There is power in intentions spoken and written. Write this in the comments now. I walk protected and unseen by all evil. As you write it, do not rush. Let each word settle inside you, as if you are planting a seed in the unseen soil of your own spirit. There is something that the ancient sages understood deeply. Not all forces that affect your life are physical. In the Hebrew tradition, the concept of Ein Hara, often translated as the evil eye, is not superstition, it is recognition. Recognition that envy carries energy. Recognition that intention can travel without words. Recognition that what others feel toward you can, if left unguarded, touch your path in subtle ways. But here is where the wisdom becomes different from fear. The Torah does not teach us to live afraid of these forces. It teaches us to rise above them. It teaches that when a person is aligned with the divine presence, when their inner world is ordered and their spirit is connected, they become like a light that cannot be extinguished. And more importantly, like a presence that cannot be targeted. There is a verse in the Psalms that whispers this idea in a way that many overlook. It speaks of dwelling in a place so elevated, so intimately connected to the Most High, that harm cannot reach you, not because the world has no darkness, but because you are no longer visible to it in the same way. This is not disappearance of the body, it is transformation of perception. In the ancient Hebrew language, words carry layers. They are not just definitions. They are realities. To be hidden in God is not to run away, is to be positioned differently in the spiritual structure of existence. It is as if your life is wrapped in a covering that filters what can and cannot reach you. And yet, most people live exposed. Not because they choose to, but because they do not know there is another way. They react to envy instead of dissolving its access. They fear negativity instead of stepping into a state where negativity cannot attach itself. This is why the prayer we are about to explore is not widely understood in its depth. It is often repeated, sometimes even memorized, but rarely lived. And without understanding, words lose their structure. Without intention, even sacred sounds become empty echoes. The sages of Israel taught that protection is not built in a moment. It is cultivated. It is formed in the quiet decisions you make daily, in the awareness you carry, in the alignment between your thoughts, your speech, and your actions. The prayer is the doorway, but the state of being is the dwelling. Imagine a person walking through a crowded place. Many eyes look, many thoughts arise, many silent judgments pass through the air, yet one person walks untouched. Not because no one notices them, but because nothing that is sent toward them finds a place to land. It is as if every arrow dissolves before it arrives. This is what it means to become spiritually invisible to harm. And this invisibility is not created by hiding from the world. It is created by elevating your connection beyond the level where harm operates. The Hebrew tradition often describes this as being under the wings of the divine presence. It is a poetic image, but also a precise one. Under those wings, there is covering. There is shelter. There is a boundary that darkness does not cross. But here is the part that many miss. You do not enter that place by chance. You enter it through awareness, through alignment, through a shift in how you see yourself and your place in creation. Because the truth is, you were never meant to walk exposed. There is a reason why certain individuals seem untouched by chaos, even when everything around them is unstable. It is not luck. It is not coincidence. It is positioning. A positioning that comes from understanding something ancient. Something preserved quietly within the teachings of the Torah and the words of the sages. And as you continue to listen, something subtle may begin to happen within you. A sense that this is not new, but remembered. As if your spirit already recognizes this path, even if your mind is just beginning to understand it. Stay with this feeling, because what you are about to uncover is not just a prayer. It is a key that does not close doors, but removes you from the reach of what was never meant to touch you in the first place. Hidden within the sacred texts of Israel, there is a pattern that repeats itself quietly, almost as if it were waiting for those who are ready to perceive it. It is not presented as something loud or dramatic, but as something precise, structured, and deeply intentional. The foundation of this invisibility is rooted in a verse that has been recited for centuries, a passage that carries within it both protection and positioning. It is found in the book of Psalms, in what is known as Psalm 91. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. At first glance, it may sound poetic, almost symbolic, but in the Hebrew language, nothing is merely decorative. The phrase, secret place, comes from the word sita, which does not simply mean a hidden location. It refers to a concealed dimension, a covering that exists beyond ordinary perception. It is not a place you travel to physically, but a state you enter spiritually. The sages of Israel taught that to dwell in this place is not to visit it occasionally, but to remain there. The Hebrew verb used implies continuity, stability, a constant positioning of the soul. And this is where the mystery begins to unfold. Protection is not something external that comes and goes. It is a condition that is sustained when one lives within this hidden alignment. The shadow of the Almighty, or Tazal Shaddai, carries another layer. A shadow only exists when there is closeness. It is impossible to stand in someone's shadow if you are far away. So the verse is not just promising protection, it is describing proximity. It is revealing that the closer one is to the divine presence, the more naturally one becomes covered. This is where the concept of spiritual invisibility begins to take shape. Because according to rabbinical interpretation, what is under this shadow is not exposed to the same forces that operate outside of it. The Talmud and later teachings often emphasize that harm does not attach itself randomly. It seeks entry points, openings, imbalance. But when a person is aligned, when their inner state reflects trust, awareness, and connection, those openings begin to close. In this context, the prayer is not magic. It is alignment expressed through sound. There is also a deeply rooted tradition surrounding what is known as the Anabekoch, an ancient Hebrew prayer composed of 42 letters, believed to encode spiritual pathways of protection and elevation. Many sages associated this prayer with the ability to rearrange spiritual structures around a person, not by force, but by resonance. Each phrase corresponds to a dimension of refinement, of elevation, of drawing the soul closer to its source. And when this happens, something subtle shifts. It is not that the world stops having darkness. It is that darkness loses its access point to you. This is also reflected in the Torah itself. In the book of Exodus, during the time of the plagues in Egypt, there is a moment when a distinction is made between the Egyptians and the Israelites. Darkness covered the land, yet in the dwellings of Israel, there was light. The same environment, but a different experience. The same world, but a different reality. This is not just history, it is a principle. It teaches that when there is alignment with the divine, separation occurs naturally. Not a separation of distance, but a separation of influence. One group was affected, the other remained untouched. This is the essence of what it means to be invisible, to harm. Not that you disappear, but that what seeks to harm you cannot recognize you as a target. The Zohar, one of the central texts of Jewish mysticism, expands on this idea by explaining that a person who is connected to higher awareness is clothed in a spiritual garment. This garment is not visible to the eyes, but it determines how forces interact with the individual. If the garment is strong, refined, and aligned, negativity cannot penetrate it. And how is this garment formed? Through intention, through consciousness, through words spoken with awareness. This is why prayer in Hebrew tradition is called tefillah, a word that shares its root with to connect or to attach. It is not about asking from a distance, it is about aligning from within. When a person prays with understanding, they are not sending words outward. They are restructuring their inner world to reflect a higher order. And this restructuring has consequences. It changes how you move through reality. It changes what attaches to you, and what cannot. If you feel something stirring within you as you hear this, it is not by accident. There is a recognition happening. Something ancient, responding to something ancient. And I want to ask you something simple, but important. Do you resonate with this kind of wisdom? Do you feel that there is more beneath the surface of what you have been taught? If this speaks to you, and you want to see more content like this, you can support the channel through the thanks button below the video. Your contribution, no matter the size, helps keep these teachings alive and reaching those who are meant to hear them. Because what we are uncovering here is not just information. It is inheritance. An inheritance of protection, of alignment, of understanding that has been preserved carefully, passed from generation to generation, not always openly, but always faithfully. And as this understanding deepens within you, you begin to realize something that changes everything. You were never meant to fight darkness directly. You are meant to rise above the level where it operates, and in doing so, become unreachable to it. There comes a moment when knowledge must stop being something you admire, and begin to become something you live. Because what has been revealed is not meant to remain in thought, it is meant to transform the way you walk, the way you respond, the way you exist in the unseen layers of life. To become invisible to evil is not an act of escape, it is an act of elevation. And elevation is built through practice, through awareness, repeated daily, until it becomes your natural state. In the Hebrew tradition, one of the most important understandings is that the inner world shapes the outer experience. The sages taught that a person who carries chaos within will inevitably attract confusion around them. But a person who cultivates alignment, who orders their thoughts and anchors their spirit, begins to move differently through reality, not louder, but clearer, not harder, but higher. And this is where the practice begins. It begins in the quiet moments, when no one is watching. When you wake up, before the noise of the world enters your mind, there is a space, small, but powerful. In that space, you choose your alignment. You remember that you are not exposed, that you are not alone, that you are positioned under something greater than what you fear. This remembrance is already a form of protection. The Hebrew sages often emphasized kavanah, the intention behind every word, every prayer, every action. Without intention, even sacred words lose their structure. But with intention, even a simple phrase becomes a force that reshapes your inner reality. So when you speak, you do not speak casually. You speak with awareness. You begin to declare your position, not to convince the world, but to align your own spirit. And I want you to do something now. Write this in the comments, slowly, consciously. I am covered, protected, and untouched by all evil. As you write it, feel it, not as a wish, but as a truth you are stepping into. Because repetition with awareness builds structure, and structure creates stability. One of the practices preserved within Jewish wisdom is the idea of guarding not only what you say but what you allow to enter you. Words you hear, images you consume, environments you stay in. All of these either strengthen your spiritual garment or weaken it. Protection is not only about what you activate, it is also about what you refuse to carry. When you begin to filter what enters your inner world, something changes. You become less reactive. You become less affected by the emotional projections of others. Envy loses its grip because it cannot attach itself to a person who is not internally available for it. This is a subtle but powerful shift. And it is here that many people fail, not because they lack knowledge, but because they underestimate consistency. They look for a single moment, a single prayer, a single act that will solve everything. But the sages were clear. Transformation is built daily. A shield is not created in a moment, it is maintained over time.
Se você gosta de conteúdos como esse e quer nos apoiar, temos aqui na descrição um material que, além de te ajudar com informações valiosas sobre os secretos judios, também nos ajudará como forma de apoio para continuarmos no YouTube.
As you continue to walk this path, you begin to notice something almost unexplainable. Situations that once drained you no longer affect you in the same way. People who once carried heavy energy toward you seem unable to reach you. Conflicts dissolve before they even begin. It is not that life becomes empty of challenges. It is that those challenges no longer penetrate your center. This is the beginning of spiritual invisibility in practice. Another essential principle comes from the idea of gratitude, deeply rooted in Jewish daily life. Gratitude is not just an emotion, it is alignment. When you consciously recognize what is given to you, when you acknowledge provision, protection, and presence, you shift your frequency away from lack and into connection. And connection strengthens your covering. Even in difficult moments, the act of gratitude realigns your perception. It reminds you that you are sustained, that you are guided, that you are not abandoned in the chaos of the world. And this awareness becomes a shield, because it prevents fear from taking root. Fear is one of the main openings through which negativity enters. But when fear is replaced by trust, the opening closes. So your daily practice becomes simple, but powerful. You wake with awareness. You speak with intention. You guard what enters your inner world. You cultivate gratitude. And you remember, again and again, where you are positioned, not exposed, but covered, not vulnerable, but aligned, not targeted, but unseen by what seeks to harm. And over time, this stops feeling like an effort, and begins to feel like your natural state. Because you were never meant to live in constant defense. You were meant to live in alignment so deep, so stable, that defense becomes unnecessary. As this understanding settles within you, something else begins to emerge, a quiet confidence. Not arrogance, not pride, but a calm certainty that you are walking under a protection that does not depend on circumstances. And this certainty changes everything. It changes how you speak. It changes how you respond. It changes what you allow and what you release. Because now you are no longer reacting to the world as it comes. You are moving through it from a place that the world cannot easily touch. And this is where the practice becomes transformation, not visible to everyone, but undeniable to you.